Well, we also wanted to talk to you about your interview with Haider al-Abadi last night. The Iraqi Prime Minister wrapped up his official visit to Washington, and there are reports that surfaced that he's working behind the scenes against the Saudi airstrikes in Yemen. And you asked him about this and also about the fight against ISIS in Iraq. Let's take a listen to that.
If you drive Daesh out of Iraq, is Iran going to have more influence than the United States would like for it to have in Iraq?
We're getting support in terms of intelligence, in terms of advisors, in terms of training and weapons. We're not getting support from any country, whether the international coalition or Iran, in terms of soldiers fighting on the ground against Daesh with the Iraqis. Only Iraqis are fighting on the ground.
There are no Iranians fighting on the ground?
No.
Even though there are Iranian advisors?
Exactly. They don't fight. They don't carry arms. They're not allowed to do that.
But do they give instructions to the Shia militia?
Well, they give advice. Okay. Now, I have to be clear on this. If they are giving advice, if they're making militias in Iraq as their proxies, we consider this as hostile to Iraq.
And Charlie, I'm curious, he has done a lot in just 7 months on the job. What's been the most important move that he's made so far in terms of the fight against terror?
Well, I mean, the Iraqi army, as you know, fled Mosul when it was overtaken by ISIS, which they call Daesh. But what's interesting now is they've retaken Tikrit, and they're planning, and I tried to get him to talk about when. He said it'll be after Ramadan for this big attack against Mosul, which will be a climatic battle probably for ISIS within Iraq. The question also, because the Iranians are also on the Iraqi side, on the American side, all fighting ISIS, there's some in America worry that Iran may want to have a lingering effect there. It may have too much influence with the Iraqi government, and that was a subject we talked about. And he was very, very strong about saying not going to happen. You know, it will not happen, and we won't let that happen. But the Iranians have huge influence with him, and one of their leading generals has been on the ground there.
Something that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu pointed out in several interviews. Also, what is, Charlie, to your mind, the difference between al-Abadi and his predecessor, Nouri al-Maliki?
Well, it has to do essentially with the relationship to the Sunnis. Iraq and Iran are majority Shia, but for a long time it was run by Hussein, who was a Sunni. Yeah. And so what you have is, in the case of Maliki, you had a guy who really did everything he could to eliminate Sunni influence. And what Maliki, I mean, what al-Abadi has done is to try to change that policy, bring more into the government, and that's what the United States wants him to do as well.
Before you go, I'm just curious, you know, you hear a lot that he's very charismatic, he's very well educated. Do you see any similarities between him and Afghanistan's new president, President Ghani? Because when he came over too and had that visit, he was very grateful to Americans.
Interesting, they both speak English, for example. They both have spent time. They both were not, Ghani was not necessarily someone who'd been in politics. You know, he'd been in an academic world as well. He had been in the world of economy. He's a very different kind of guy than I think. It doesn't come across as much of a politician as al-Abadi does.
Okay. Looking forward to your interview tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you can catch the rest of Charlie's interview with Haider al-Abadi tonight on his PBS program. Charlie, thank you as always for being here.
Good to see you.
Thanks so much.
60 Minutes on Sunday.
That's right, 60 Minutes on Sunday as well. Charlie Rose.
All the time.